Hi everyone, welcome to First Phase Capital. This is Mark, and today I'll be discussing with Aneel Waraich, Vice President and Director of Steppe Gold, Mongolia's premier precious metals company. How are you, Aneel?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's my pleasure to host you and to get more about Steppe Gold. So let's dive into the subject right now. For investors who may be unfamiliar with your company, could you
Mhm.
introduce Steppe Gold?
Absolutely. So, yeah, Steppe Gold, as you mentioned, is Mongolia's premier precious metals company. We're listed on the main board of the Toronto Stock Exchange. We listed in May 2018 and subsequently built our first mine that's been in commercial production since April 2020. So, Steppe Gold today is a producer and we're expanding. So we're actually a developer as well because we're developing our phase two sulfide operation as we speak. So we're going to continue to produce for the next couple of years while building our expansion that we're actually fully funded and have raised 150 million US of debt for. And we also have exploration projects in our portfolio, both in Mongolia and an advanced exploration slash development project in Peru. So we're a multi-asset, multi-jurisdiction company with circa 4.5 million ounces on our balance sheet between
Yeah.
Mongolia and now Peru. A producer that's produced over 100,000 ounces very profitably, commercial production, and now funded to bring our much larger operation online over the next 2 years.
Okay, and if I may say, I was pretty surprised when I heard about Mongolia. It's not the location you usually hear from a mining company.
Mhm.
So could you tell us why you went there? What's the benefits of mining there?
Yeah, so for listeners or viewers, Mongolia is a resource-rich country. It's underexplored, or already home to world-class assets, mines, and discoveries. With the ATO Gold Mine that Rio Tinto operates and owns, jointly with the government of Mongolia. That's one of the biggest copper mines in the world and discoveries in the 2000s that has been brought online now employs over 15,000 locals, 16,000 total, and will go on for about 100 years. So we're already in the right jurisdiction in terms of um, resource rich, underexplored. The country's only 1% explored today. So a lot of opportunity for more copper discoveries like the Oitogo and plenty of precious metals deposits to be built and discovered like we have here at Steppe Gold with our ATO mine. So it's a region that's, like I said, I guess overlooked by many. Landlocked country between two superpowers, Russia and China. But it is a mining jurisdiction. It's the number one driver of taxes, royalties, GDP, employment in country. So this is a mining jurisdiction. So that's a big benefit for international investors like ourselves. And of course, more importantly, is my partner Matt Wood, who I helped co-found this company with, as well as locally Bata Tumor Osher. He's worked in country since 2009. So this is not new for us. When we started Steppe Gold at the end of 2016, he had previously went there in 2009, built another company called Hunu Coal, and sold that for $500 million cash at the end of 2011. So there's a track record in country of execution of creating value for locals and investors. So that's kind of the reason why we're comfortable. And it's kind of like going to, I would say, Africa 30 years ago. It's the last frontier is the way we look at it. That's safe, stable, supportive government and a lot of opportunity still.
Okay, and there, so how many projects do you guys have? And out of all of them, do you have a preferred one?
Yeah, so we have three projects in the company today, two in Mongolia, one in Peru. So the one in Peru is the 2.5 million ounce deposit we just acquired this summer, which is very similar to what we have in Mongolia. It's a high grade, one of the highest grade undeveloped oxide development projects in the world. Exactly what we built in Mongolia with our ATO phase one. But the most exciting today is our ATO mine that's currently in production. That's already produced over 100,000 ounces. Will continue to produce around 25 to 30,000 ounces for the next 2 years while we finish construction and commission our phase two on the same footprint. So we're really moving from oxides, shallow oxides from surface down to 40 meters into a larger pit down to 300 meters or so with four deposits. And that's our 12-year mine life at over 100,000 ounces per annum of production at about $900 all in cost. So robust economics, strong production profile, well over 10 years of mine life, which investors want to see. And more importantly, we just raised 150 million of debt to build it. So, we're fully funded for all the capex required to bring that online without having to raise massively dilutive equity. So that's our core project today that we're focusing on, because it is the cash machine that will fund and has funded our growth. We've grown our asset in Mongolia. The ATO license was just over 1.2 million ounces when we bought it. Today it's over 2 million ounces. It only had 210,000 ounces reserves. Today it's at 1.7 million ounces and still growing, by the way. All these pits, all these deposits remain open. So that's our core project, because it will fund the growth of the company going forward. All that cash flow will not only cover the debt repayment very quickly, but can fund from an equity component any future builds, which will most probably be also in Mongolia.
It's very impressive about the fact that you say the ATO mine can produce. And I feel like more than ever, it's what investors are looking at, a company that is already producing. Mm-hmm. And do you have any plans there to enhance the production over time?
Yeah, so on the oxide, the current operation that's in production today, it produces that 800, 850 all-in cost, a bit higher, depending on the quarter and the volume. But right now, we only have 2 years of mine life. So right now, we've actually started a shallow drill program, so near mine exploration. So 90% of the license, the mining license that we haven't explored really, we're actually exploring today. So we're doing a shallow drill program with the hopes and intention of finding more oxides. So that will enhance or grow our phase one life of mine. So instead of it falling off in 2025, then 2025, when phase two comes online, there is an opportunity. It's all optionality today for us to extend that mine life. Or if we find more oxides sooner, then we can actually increase our production profile for the next couple of years, because we can produce at a higher rate than 25, 30,000 ounces. In fact, we produced about 40,000 ounces from March of 2022 to March 2023 over that 12-month period. So certainly the capacity is there. We just have to find more oxides. If we don't, not a big deal. We have a large sulfide component that keeps growing. That is the real meat on the bone, I guess, for the company. But certainly we are looking at ways to optimize it. And then again, we're growing our production anyways. We have now funded an amazing package that we put together that's equity friendly, not dilutive, principal payback friendly, one-stop funding package, so it's not complex, and we've now funded that expansion. So no matter what happens, we are growing from 25, 30,000 ounces to over 100,000 ounces in the next 2 years.
Yeah, it's definitely great to hear that. So great project, but what about the team? Could you talk more about you and about the team as well? You were talking about Matt Wood. Yes. Could you develop again, say more insights if possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Matt is the technical guy on our team. He's an exploration geologist, Rio Tinto scholar, has worked around the world and made many discoveries, and has built companies and sold them globally. So including, as I mentioned, in Mongolia, he was the co-founder, executive chairman of Avanco Resources, a copper producer in Brazil that was sold for about 440 million in 2018. He's built a gold company in Armenia and sold that for, I think, about 135 million in 2007. Has worked in West Africa, Asia, Australia, and the Americas. So he's the real deal, who's technically sound and sees assets and sees the upside. That's what we saw in this project, but also understands the capital markets. So that's a very important mix that you don't really see a lot from geologists or technical guys. So he's got that great capability there to have kind of both sides. Of course, Bata Tumor Osher, who's our chairman and CEO today, has worked with Matt since 2009 in Mongolia. So he's a Mongolian national, really knows how to manage operations in country, all relationships, right from the local level to provincial to federal. So he's the key man on the ground, and hence why he's been promoted to now chairman. First he started as a vice president to CEO, and now chairman, and he's running the show there and has relationships. So more importantly, I think our team is very local. Half our board are Mongolian. Today, our chairman and CEO, Mongolian. Not just a face, right? These are people who actually do things in country, which is very important. And 99% of our team in country, which is now about 350 people between full-time staff and contractors, are all local Mongolians. So that's a huge win for our team. And that's how you should operate anywhere, not just Mongolia. The more local you are, the more support you'll get at all levels in country if you're creating jobs, educating people. creating taxes, royalties. We've paid over 13 million of royalties to the government. The government's very supportive of what we're doing. So that's a key part of the team, is the rest of the 350 people, not just the management at the C-suite or in the board. So huge win. And then I guess me, I'm a finance guy. I grew up in Toronto. Started at the Dundee Group of Companies, founded by Ned Goodman, who was obviously one of the biggest resource investors in the world. And I cut my chops there, working on the buy side as an analyst covering private investments in the resource space, and then to investment banking. And then I got the opportunity in 2016 when Matt said he's going back to Mongolia to start kind of on the ground floor here with Steppe Gold. And besides that, we have very valuable board members. Patrick Michaels here out of Zurich. Steve Haggerty, former Barrick Gold heap leach expert. Jeremy South, our CFO, was the head of Deloitte's global mining practice. Lots of experience in Asia. So we put together, I would say, a rock star team to execute. We've now done.
Yeah, it's very great to hear that. And you know what? I do appreciate the fact that you emphasize the fact that you guys are local. I feel like it's something that is very important right now. And there are other companies as well. And would you say that is putting a difference between you and the other competitors?
Yeah, absolutely. That does set you apart. No one stops you from growing as we are now. Clearly, we're doubling our workforce in the next 2 years. That's going to be almost 700 employees. No one stops you from growing in country if you're doing all the right things. It's very hard for anyone to poke holes, no matter who's in charge. So you can. It's basically insurance, right? You're creating this insurance for the company that doesn't matter who's in power, what government, even though it's been a pro mining government, major majority for the last 8 years. It's very hard for anyone to poke holes and say these guys, they're not doing well. They're not doing the right things. No, we're doing all the right things. So that sets us apart. What other thing also sets us apart is our alignment with our investors. As a board and management team today, we own 20% of the company. We've been public for 5.5 years, have never sold a share. We feel the pain when the market is where it is today. And we're here to ride again and build something very significant that's going to be, multiples of where we're trading today, and multiples of where we listed at $2 a share. Back in 2018, when we were much riskier. So that alignment as a management team and board is huge. It sets us apart as well, because when we treat each dollar like it's our own. We are there to mitigate dilution, as we've just shown with this project financing package, which is almost unheard of. To raise that kind of quantum without having to raise massively diluted equity. So that's a huge part, I think, on the management side. Again, showing skin in the game, alignment with our investors.
Okay, it's very impressive. So you guys have rockstar projects, rockstar team. I could hear that you guys are also very focused on the way you guys are using your money, and it's very important for investors. If we go deeper into those numbers, could you discuss the share numbers, because I don't have these data?
Yeah, so we've maintained a fairly tight capital structure, along the way, building a mine and going public and all that. Today we have just under 105 million shares outstanding. Fully diluted would be about 110 million shares. So it's still fairly tight. That's it. There's no other options or warrants. In fact, any option grant in the company has been at our IPO price. So we IPO'd at $2, even when our stock price was below $1, and we did an option grant to management and board, it was at $2, over 100% premium to the market. Again, unheard of. So we maintained a tight cap structure. In fact, it would have been even, sub 90 million shares had we not issued paper for that acquisition in Peru. But we doubled the size of the company, more than double the size of the company, by issuing 20 million shares for this Anacortes acquisition this summer. So that closed at the end of June. So our share count went up from 85 million to 104.5 million. Not the worst thing. So we now gained some new shareholders. And of course, some of those fell out. So that was our, all of our good news in the last few months. There's kind of an overhang from that transaction. Some of those guys will sell no matter what, and they're now kind of out. And that's where you're seeing our stock kind of with the market go down. Then we, with this good positive news, create liquidity for those guys, and now we're kind of clean that up. So I think now is the beautiful time to really show people, to investors, you can get into a funded company without having to raise equity at these levels to get to multiples of where we're trading.
And talking about shareholders, do you have any noteworthy ones? Like those who if like somebody would hear them would be like, okay, it's a big name.
Yeah,
So it might say something about that company.
absolutely. I'll start with Eric Sprott, a legendary mining investor, precious metals investor. I talked to him, before we started production at the end of 2019. Our stock was just under $1. And he didn't need to jump into Mongolia at that time, unfortunately. He liked everything we were saying and he liked the opportunity. He came in August 2020. Once we started production, our stock price was in the twos again. And he came in for $15 million investment at $2.15. Today, he actually bought more on market last year and this year as well. So very supportive. He's just under 10% of the company today. Hasn't sold a share. He's bought more. And his cost basis is 2.5 to 3 times our current share price. So he's, again, supportive, and new investors get the opportunity to kind of get in at lower levels than some of our long-term awesome supporters. Fidelity Investments also owns 6% of our company. That's obviously one of the biggest asset managers in the world. Very strong validation. Again, their cost basis is much higher. So you have a lot of investors who've come in, these brand name investors that hold a significant amount of our company that come in at higher prices and are long-term shareholders and are there. So again, you have the opportunity. So those are some noteworthy investors, certainly, that I think people will know. There's a few other institutions in there. There's a bunch of family offices around the world. So about 50 to 60% of our stock is held in these long-term shareholders and board of management hands, who are here to build a $10, $20 company, not a $2 company, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely great to have big names, right? And again, the company is producing gold already. Could you say it again? Over the last quarter, how much gold the Steppe Gold produced?
Yeah, so we're running at that same run rate of 25 to 30,000 ounces. So this year, again, for 2023, we'll produce in that range of 25 to 30,000 ounces. So last quarter, Q3, we produced and sold just over 7,000 ounces. So that's about just under 15 million US of revenue.
Okay.
Funny enough is in 2020, our first quarter of production, when you couldn't get in the country, by the way. So that's why it's important to have a local team, because we really benefited from being able to start production. We produced 15,000 ounces our first quarter and 35,000 ounces over the 9-month period. And that first quarter revenue was 25 million US, which is as much as it cost to build our phase 1 heap leach operation. So huge. So as we produce about 2,000 ounces a month, 2,000 to 2,500 a month on a go forward basis. So nothing's going to change too much. It's going to be kind of steady Eddie, but it does produce some cash flow, covers our costs, covers our debt financing for this new project financing that's now live. We've already drawn down on just under 10 million of that $150 million package, and we'll pay interest only until 6 months after we commission the mine. So our current cash flow gets to service and pay the cost. It's nice to have in this very tough market, as you can imagine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was very interesting about all those insights regarding the projects, the management team, the financials, which are very important as well. And if we could summarize, 2023 is almost over. We're about to enter in 2024. What would you say you are the most excited about Steppe Gold? Going like into the new year.
Yeah. So I think first and foremost is continuing to advance to phase 2. So we drew down 9.6. Our next draw, which would be a bit chunkier, hopefully in the 20 to 30 million range, means that phase 2 is progressing. So that the market can see that this phase 2 construction and long lead item deposits is advancing, and that money is real, right? It shows people, that 150 million is available, and they're drawing down on it, because then it removes any overhang that people think we need to raise equity at these levels. Will we raise equity? Yes. So what gets me excited actually is the Hong Kong listing. So in all of this, we've been working on this for a few years. We pulled it a couple of years ago. We started again this year, sorry. And we're actually almost ready today, but given the market conditions, we're waiting. So it's more of a Q2, maybe early Q3 opportunity, and we're really 70 to 80% done today in terms of all the work that has to be done there, because we're on the main board of the Toronto Stock Exchange. We're already listed. So we're doing a dual primary listing in Hong Kong. This is a very liquid market. Precious metals is well understood in Asia, as everyone knows. It's culturally. So us being a producer that has funded development will resonate very well. We've already done 4 non-deal roadshows in the last kind of 18 months. The reception is good. Our price isn't yet. So because, as I mentioned, we will raise equity. That will be an equity raise for the IPO. We have the luxury of waiting until our price gets higher, where it should be. And so there in Hong Kong, there's only 6 other precious metals companies that trade. On the Toronto Stock Exchange, we're one of hundreds of producers and thousands of exploration companies, right? So that's and we're an Asian producer, so we're well understood. It's not like we have to educate people about Mongolia. We're right there in their own backyard. So we've done our work and we know that interest is there. So that's going to be, I think, a major catalyst for the company because liquidity is higher. We're going to be one of 7 companies. There's only 4 producers that trade out of the 6 that trade today, and their market caps are between about 2 billion and 50 billion. So you can imagine when we show up there as for even for a couple $100 million market cap, which we're not even today, but we'll get back to before we list. I think how much interest there would be, and then on a real comp basis, not market cap, we will show well in terms of our resources, our production, our EBITDA, our EPS, all those earning multiples, and of course they get really excited the fact that we could be a dividend payer in a few years. Once phase 2 is up and running, you can service your debt, principal payments, and have excess cash flow to fund growth and maybe return some to shareholders. And so that excites me. I think that's our best chance of getting back to before then back to $2, and from $2 to that next couple multiples, and still be cheap on that exchange, and still be cheap actually versus some of our peers who trade at 5 to 10 times their current valuation. So that excites us a lot. So really, ATO phase 2 continuing to progress and showing the market how quickly we're moving once we got the funding package, and then that Hong Kong listing and all that is a huge catalyst and boost, I think, for all of our shareholders. So that's exciting. And then last but not least is exploration. If we hit some oxide discoveries and find more oxides near our mine today, and you show that to the market, that's low-hanging fruit. That's almost free ounces that you can convert into cash by just putting it on the plant. So that's already in operation today. So that would be also a nice little big win if it happens.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I know it's going to be hard because we just talked about short-term catalysts and there are plenty of them. But let's go in the long run and let's give or take 5 years. Why would you see the company in 5 years? Ideally.
Yeah, I think so. In 5 years' time, you're going to have a cash flow machine at current gold price, spinning off more than our market cap in cash flow. And I think a valuation would be much more robust, given the Hong Kong listing would be a few years already completed, I think, in that traction. And I think from a production profile, we'll be closer to 200,000 ounces. So, we're bringing online phase 2 that'll be 103,000 ounces average for 12 years. We already know it's growing because we've already found new discoveries and extensions below the current pits. So that's going to grow from a mine life. But production profile, I think we can grow that to 120, 150,000 ounces just on that ATO mine. And then I think we'll have either developed or bought another producing asset in Mongolia that'll take our production to over 200,000 ounces. So I think in 5 years' time, we're going to be a 200,000 to 300,000 ounce producer, or showing a clear path to that. Mm-hmm. That doesn't require equity raise. I think the Hong Kong listing is our final equity raise that allow us to self-fund all of our growth and development, and we can fund the equity component from our own cash flow alongside debt for any other build. So I think in about 5 years' time, we're going to be more than a 5 million ounce on the balance sheet company, and a production profile that's of a mid-tier, 200,000 to 300,000 ounces.
And that's definitely impressive. And also, so we covered pretty much everything. We covered the projects, the management, the financials, but catalysts as well. But let's say if potential investors, viewers have more questions, where could they reach out to?
Yeah, so absolutely. Obviously, on our website, we have tons of resources, videos, interviews, more of me. But certainly my contact details are there. And anyone can reach out anytime directly to me, Aneel, ANEEL, at Steppe Gold, STEPPE gold.com. And I'll make myself accessible and happy to have calls with investors. That's what I do. I speak to the investors that have thousands of shares and the big guys who have 7 million and everyone in between. So we love telling the story. We're always happy to speak to any investors. So please reach out anytime.
Awesome. It was my last question. Thanks a lot, Aneel, for your time. It was great to talk and to know more about Steppe Gold. And I'm definitely looking forward to hearing the next news about your company.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Mark.
Thank you.